Welcome to Inhabit headquarters. My name is Eric Hagstette. I'm owner-broker of Inhabit Real Estate. And I have with you this morning my good friend and colleague, John Powers. And John and I wanted to share with you several pieces of information and several tasks that we've been working on for the good of all of our broker friends out there in this ever-changing market. Good morning, John.
Morning.
How you doing today?
Good, man.
Good. So we've been working on quite the collaboration in terms of creating a market offering for the brokers in our marketplace and others to really prepare our broker friends for the future.
Yeah.
Now, we all know that things are changing drastically in the residential real estate space, and we are taking a very proactive response and position towards really thinking about how to best position ourselves and also our broker colleagues. Welcome to Inhabit headquarters. My name is Eric Hagstette. I'm owner-broker of Inhabit Real Estate. And I have with you this morning my good friend and colleague, John Powers. And John and I wanted to share with you several pieces of information and several tasks that we've been working on for the good of all of our broker friends out there in this ever-changing market. Good morning, John.
Morning.
How you doing today?
Good, man.
Good. So we've been working on quite the collaboration in terms of creating a market offering for the brokers in our marketplace and others to really prepare our broker friends for the future.
Yeah.
Now, we all know that things are changing drastically in the residential real estate space, and we are taking a very proactive response and position towards really thinking about how to best position ourselves and also our broker colleagues here at Inhabit and within our ecosystem to prepare for the future.
Yep.
But before we jump into some of the things we've been working on, I wanted to give you guys some background on who we are and why we might have a little bit of credibility to share with you some of these things that we're going to get into later. So John, give us a quick background on yourself, where you've been, where are you now, where you're from, favorite thing to do when you're not working.
Gotcha. Where have I been? I grew up, I'm a Portland native. I grew up right over here in Mount Tabor Park. And when I graduated high school, the first thing I wanted to do was get out of Portland. And so I moved down to Southern California. Wanted to be in Surf City, USA for a variety of reasons. I was 17 years old. And that's where, as a teenager, getting into my young 20s, starting to figure out career, and I actually just stumbled into real estate. At a pretty young age, I was 19 years old when I decided to start working for realtors. I've always been in the business of working for realtors. I always kind of consider myself a little bit more like more of the Pippin, the number 2 guy on the court. Never needed to be in the limelight or the number 1 person, but so I started working for realtors in Orange County, basically in a lot of the operational sides of the business. And realized quickly that I was on the wrong side of those paychecks. I saw that the realtors were getting those large commissions, and so that was very attractive to me, especially as a young man living in Southern California. So I got my real estate license in 2004 after helping build a couple of small boutique brokerages in the Orange County area.
Were you on any of the real estate shows that we see these days?
No. Again, I was the Pippin. The people I was working for were very much in front of the camera and the limelight, but I was always kind of in the background my whole career, which I was totally fine with. So started working for a brokerage called Keller Williams Realty back in 2008.
Is that a local franchise? I haven't really heard of that.
Yeah. No, large, back then it wasn't the number 1 real estate brokerage by agent count and production in the world, but became that through 16 years of working there. But my focus really was working with and building teams in Keller Williams. Keller Williams, they wrote the book on how to build teams in terms of everything from how the economic models should look like, lead generation models should look like. So when I moved back to Portland in 2009, I partnered up with a good friend and mentor in the business, and he set out to really prove the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Okay. And so we followed that book to a T. Every single page, every single word on the page was followed to a T, and we really began to build what became one of the top real estate teams in Portland. Again, I started off operationally. In 2011, I moved over to the sales side of the business. I had lied my way through a personality assessment called the DISC profile in 2009 because the market wasn't awesome in 2009. Flooded with foreclosure, short sales.
'09.
And so I hunkered back down into my operational expertise then. And so on the test, it asked you if you're detail-oriented and tasks and all this kind of stuff. So which, of course, I was to get the job. But my passion was really sales. So the second half of my 20-plus year career has been in the revenue driving aspects of team building. So more around the lead generation systems, scripts, dialogues, presentations, those kind of things. And so quickly that team started to, as it got larger and larger, we started to actually expand into other markets utilizing the systems, whether those were the lead generation systems, operational systems. We started to expand into places like Southern Oregon, up and down the I-5 corridor, Eugene, Seattle, and then went nationwide and hit a couple territories on the East Coast. That expansion team is what they were calling it. Formed a partnership with one of the other top expansion teams out of the Bellingham office and formed a company ultimately called Place. And that company was formed as a solution for large teams. So we only worked with the top 1% of team owners across the United States. These were teams that had a lot of staff, a lot of salary, a lot of sales agents, a lot of needs for things like coaching, operational support. And so we helped consult these business owners with a key focus on profitability. So one of the things that we recognized in the real estate space is that you can have these massive teams and you could be winning all of these production awards, lots of revenue. We also call it GCI or gross commission income, but lots of revenue coming into these teams. But in a lot of cases, there's more expenses and commissions going out than there ultimately is revenue driving in. So we built the company to really focus on profitability and making sure that our operators across the United States were, actually having a P&L, actually looking at that P&L every single month, questioning expenses, making sure that there's good ROI from those expenses. And then, of course, my role was more on the revenue driving side, so making sure that the agents were staying productive. We also had a conversation internally that I think is not necessarily talked about enough, which was per agent productivity. And that means that you could throw up these numbers, but we found a lot of teams had an all-star, was doing 50, 60 deals, and then the rest of the agents on the team, they might have 15 other agents on the team doing maybe 3, 4, 5 deals in a year, not living amazing lives. And so our focus was to get every single agent on those teams into production. And our goal was to get a PAP or per agent productivity number of at least 2.0 per month, so that each agent on the team was doing about 24 deals a year or 2 a month. And so that was my background until a recent shift in terms I just got married. I have 4 bonus kids, stepchildren.
Nice.
They're between the ages of 20 and 12, so I've got teenagers and preteens.
Now, do you gauge per kid productivity too?
Well, that's we're upside down in that category. The teenage productivity is not as high as the realtor productivity that we were driving. So lifestyle changed. Really started wanting to hunker down back to my roots as I had been elevating through these positions and through my partnership with the former team. I had pretty much been a part of the beginnings of all of these teams and then this larger company. So started moving more into more management style roles, directors of sales roles, so more into the coaching, more into the consulting of businesses, and got away from the sales, working with buyers and sellers. I always wanted to remain sharp, stay in touch with buyers and sellers, but I just didn't do a lot of them. And so my focus over the last year has been hunkering back down into honestly becoming a solo agent again, working with buyers and sellers, and I've been having a ton of fun with it.
Nice. Now all that is going to come into play because what we are working on is an agent offering that really serves agents from any point in any phase of their career. So solo agent, teams, profitability, and and more. So keep that in mind because we're going to touch on that in a little bit.
Well, and then ultimately private label.
And the private label, we'll definitely get into that. But so, all right, so a little bit about John personally, besides being a dad of 4, what do you do when you're not working?
Lately, it has been so our 2 of our children are in club sports, and one is in 2 different club sports. So weekends are primarily with family now. We're either on the pitch for soccer games or softball fields on the weekends. Outside of that, one of the big draws for me was to move back home from Southern California here to Portland. Was I love the outdoors, so I love fishing, I love camping. My wife and I love hiking. And so I love being about 30 to 45 minutes away from some of the most beautiful landscape and scenery that I think exists in the United States. And so that's really important to me. So weather depending, if I can be outdoors, that's my happy place.
There you go. Right on. All right, so Eric Hagstette. I moved to Portland in 1999 from Atlanta, Georgia, and spent about 5 years in corporate sales with a hardcore New York-based company that allowed 0 excuses, which at the time I felt like I was always being punished and worked over. But now that I'm in the real estate space, I recognize that that was the best training I could have ever had in my life. And so high demanding corporate sales. And in 2004, 20 years ago, I moved over into real estate, which had always been a dream of mine. And I got my license. I worked for an independent company here in Portland. So I've been in real estate in Portland almost my entire time here. Worked for 10 years as an agent with an independent company where I learned a ton and cut my teeth there. But after the 10-year mark, or right at the 10-year mark, I had a calling. I was in a certain phase of burnout, but I loved the business so much. I knew I wasn't leaving the business. And so that's when Inhabit was born. And so that's when we started Inhabit Real Estate, basically from ground zero, just myself, one other person, and off we went, and have built our independent brokerage up to about 35 people, realtors who we love and we invest a ton in and we love collaborating with. And so now we have come to 10 years at Inhabit Real Estate. And Inhabit is really deeply trenched in teaching, training, coaching, and really positioning our realtors for success in a sales career, but providing white glove concierge service to their clients to stand out above the rest.
Eric, question real quick. What would you say the difference is between what you call independent brokerage versus maybe like the brokerage that I was a part of previously?
Yeah, so instead of going that route through Keller Williams or some of the larger corporate offices, we had a calling to start and to do things what we felt was in a better way, right? And especially in the Portland market that values so much the independent, privately owned, indie boutique brokerage. And so what we did is, to answer your question, we really created our own systems. We really created all of our own teaching content, our own training, and our own way of doing things, which was extremely hands-on, extremely high touch, open door policy with leadership, and very collaborative in general. And so it's that's one of the things I'm most proud of is an Inhabit agent could walk in the door and have 3 different leaders to ask the same question to. You'll probably get 3 different versions of the same answer, but in that example, you can kind of weave it together to be the best of both worlds, so to speak. And we also have 2 retail offices, both in high walking corridors with restaurants and boutiques and shopping all around us. And so it was really important for us to blend into the fabric of the neighborhood and to be a part or a resource for the community around us to have access to, whether they wanted to buy or sell or whether they just wanted to come in and ask us a simple question about what's going on in the market. So that was really a high piece of the motivation behind creating what we've created.
Yeah, I think you did a great job with it too. Just previously being an outsider looking in to the Inhabit brand, which I always respected, and being an East Side kid, right down the street, and then having worked for very corporate style real estate firms, that are large in terms of agent count. There is a different vibe and a feel, and a lot of that is because of the roots that you guys have planted into the community. There's not one fluorescent light beaming in here, sucking your soul away. It's a really vibrant office space, very cool, and great brand that you've built. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Congrats. It's been really awesome to watch.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the branding initiative was critically important to that, in that we wanted to create a brand that resonated with everybody in the marketplace, that omitted nobody in the marketplace, and was, had a sign and branding artwork that fit whether you were a first-time home buyer or a $2 million listing. And so I think we really did a good job at that and creating something that resonates in a local independent place like this.
Yep,
So.
nailed it.
So let's talk about why we're here together,
Yeah.
and what this partnership really means and how we got here. So I'll tee this off. Basically, I was at Inman last year. I think it was in July in Las
What's
Vegas.
Inman?
Inman is, good question. Inman is the largest tech conference or tech resource for the real estate space, mainly residential real estate space. And so they have their conferences, I think, twice a year. And in this case, it was in July in Vegas, where everybody wants to be in July. And
No big deal.
And so, as I mentioned earlier, I was a realtor for 10 years at a company, an owner for 10 years. And again, I hit this 10-year cycle where I was really looking for the next phase of what we're going to do. Also knowing that there's change on the horizon. So I was keeping my eyes peeled for, for how to best kind of place the company, or take a direction to take the company to, again, best position the realtors for optimal outcome, and to stave off all of kind of the threats and noise that are in the industry all around us.
Well, that's kind of how actually you showed back up on my radar, because you started coming to some of our place events.
Right.
That
Exactly.
what we were doing, because that platform, amazing company, amazing leaders. That platform is actually a brokerage agnostic platform.
Yep.
Meaning it's not just a Keller Williams or just a Remax or that platform. Any brokerage or broker could sit on that platform to power their business. And I started to see you coming to some of our events and starting to ask some questions. I think I ran into you at a friend's office, and
Yep.
you were asking me, like, what is this thing that you guys are doing?
Oh, yeah.
And I could see the gears and turning, because the industry and the landscape is changing.
Yep.
And there's there's different solutions that are available, I believe, in our industry. And so aligning with and choosing the right platform or how to side with who's providing those solutions is really important to you. So that's what kind of put you back on my radar, because you started showing up to those things. So I know that you're an avid, constant learner, and you were out there looking for what's going to be next.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I felt the pressure from an independent owner's point of view, right? So scaling is hard. Adding services, resources, and tools for my realtors, it becomes a challenge when you are a small independent company, but the demands keep growing, right? For what the realtors expect.
Well, and the realtors want to pay less
Realtors
for
wanna
all
pay
of
less,
those,
and they want more.
and they want more.
That's correct.
Period.
So I really started researching things, and again, for the love of the business, I knew I wasn't leaving. I just knew that something felt like it needed to change, right? And so here I am at Inman. I've been researching other avenues, other platforms, and I show up at Inman, and I was essentially immersed in all things real. I think the MC of Inman itself was from real, and so I started asking more questions about that. And
Wait, let me stop you. What is real?
well, we're going to get into that in 1 second, so I shouldn't jump ahead. But this is how we got here, right? So this is our partnership formation. And so after 10 years as an owner, I knew things had to change. And I knew I wanted to embolden, for lack of better words, this company to show more leadership in the industry. And so that's when I discovered Real Brokerage, One Real. And Real is I guess the world's, I tend to say North America's, but I really think it's the world's fastest growing tech-powered cloud-based brokerage, right? And I was really intrigued with this company because it seemed to be the darling of the industry, right? Leadership awards, tech awards, culture awards, all of these things really turned my head. And so I started investigating real. And so one day, here I am, I come back from Inman and learned a ton, got a lot of information, tons of resources. And that's when one day you showed up on my text message saying, let's go hang out. I want to share with you what I'm working on, because I was always intrigued. Every time I run into you at an event, it's like, what are you working on? Because I knew you're like a forward-thinking, advanced level leader in the industry, always in the cutting edge of technology or the economics of the business and everything that kind of is behind the scenes that nobody thinks about. And so that's when you show up, hitting me, and we had coffee down the street, and off we go. So let's talk about why we did what we did and what we did and where we are and what we have to offer. So
Yeah.
You got to Real before I did.
I did, yeah. So when I was working with my previous company, I had the opportunity to be a consultant for about 30 different businesses. And when I say businesses, because we treated a real estate team or real estate as a business. I mean, we were running P&Ls, every month reviews, and had high amount of staff going into that. But as a result, since we were brokerage agnostic, I was able to consult with a variety of brands and brokerages out there. And there were a couple of brands out there, platforms, that, in my opinion, started to separate themselves from the rest of the teams and owners that I was working with. Remember, I was consulting on their P&Ls, so I was looking at things like profitability. I was looking at how they were driving revenue into their business. And there were a couple of outliers that were driving revenue and had a higher level of profitability than the rest of them. Mm-hmm. And so that's what ultimately put Real Broker on, it was just on the radar. And then the types of Real Brokers that we were bringing into the platform, they were just having fun in their business. They were good people. Their teams had just amazing culture within them. The complaints, for lack of a better word, were different than a lot of the other brokerage teams that I was consulting. Their problems we're all going to have problems in business, but their problems were just slightly different, and their outlook on them were just slightly different. So that really was intriguing to me once I had left that company to start my own thing. And I knew that, I tell people, it's like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And so going back to the company that I'd been with forever, it was like, it almost felt like it was like things were changing, times were changing. There was a new direction happening in the real estate industry, and the company that I was aligned with was was trying to get there, but they weren't there. And so I made the decision to change to the Real platform, or the Real brokerage, in Portland back in February, as just a solo agent. Mm-hmm. And this is, the new landscape and the direction I believe that places are going are more tech brokerages. Mm-hmm. Being a part of a tech brokerage is amazing in a lot of ways in terms of the economics, scalability, those types of things. But there's also a component of it that I was missing, because I'm so used to brick and mortar brokerage business and hanging out with my friends and being involved in office culture, that moving to a virtual culture, it was an adjustment for sure. And that's ultimately why I had reached out. One was to kind of pick your brain and kind of see what you were thinking about as being a independent, more boutique brokerage that I really respected. Like, where did you see the industry going? Mm-hmm. And what were your plans? But also, honestly, to talk to you a little bit about Real and just say, hey, like, have you thought of this or heard about this?
Right.
And we were in that coffee shop, and I was telling you how excited I was about this direction and where I think the industry is going, there was this moment where you're like, I just need to stop you right there. I've been thinking this way too. Yeah. And so it was a really cool conversation that I think, and I'm glad you just timed out right there because I could have kept going and on about it.
I was loving
right?
it.
Yeah. So we were just very much aligned in terms of where what the solutions are in the industry right now that we have at our fingertips, and just so happened that they were at this under the same company, which was awesome.
Yeah.